Hey there, friends. Tired of managing symptoms and struggling for answers? This holistic podcast guides you beyond one-size-fits-all advice to uncover root cause health solutions. I'm Holly Jean Mullen, your functional nutritional therapist host. Drawing from over a decade of clinical and personal experience, I'm here to help you overcome chronic issues like thyroid problems, autoimmune conditions, hormone imbalances, inflammation, weight loss resistance, the list goes on. This isn't generic advice. It's a comprehensive, personalized plan covering nutrition, mindset, and environment. Tune in for practical education, expert guests, real stories, and coaching to help identify what's keeping you stuck. It's time to understand your unique needs and tap into your God-given ability to heal by honoring nature's wisdom. Your transformation starts here. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Health Transformations. In the last episode, we talked about getting clear on your goals and creating a vision for the person you want to become. And today we are going to talk about the how of keeping that vision alive by building consistency, especially on those days when motivation feels like a distant memory. You know, when you set those goals and you're all motivated and you're ready, and then a few days later, actually day 10 is the most common time, the most popular day when people abandon their goals and their actions toward their goals. It's when that motivation is lost. We are over it by then. So we're going to talk about that. And this episode is going to be all about practical tools, or I like to call it the juicy stuff. It's the powerful questions that help us stay on track and make those intentional choices day after day. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. And if you've ever found yourself saying, I'll start fresh tomorrow, or I just don't feel like it today, then this episode is for you. We are going to explore why mindset and self-accountability are more powerful than motivation, and how just taking time to ask yourself a few intentional questions can be that key to creating lasting change and ultimately transformation for you. So once you've gotten specific and you've set your quantifiable goals, how do you stay consistent or motivated or follow through? One, if you have not listened to episode 16 on mindset and the goal setting, go back and listen to that one, and then come back to this so you can have kind of a foundational framework to know how you're going to be applying these questions. It's not a prerequisite, it's just a recommendation. So this is really where I see clients struggle, and it's where I've struggled in the past too. And so I can understand it because I've walked in these shoes. I think we all understand that to make meaningful progress, we have to be consistent. And I know this is something that you're aware of because I get the question a lot. How do I stay consistent? How do I stay motivated? It's the desire is there. It's just how do we keep the action going when the momentum fades? How do we stay consistent with taking action steps towards the things that we know we want? And one thing that is not consistent and will never be consistent is motivation, because motivation is a feeling, and feelings are naturally unreliable. So when people ask, how do I stay motivated? The answer is you don't need to stay motivated. You just need to stay consistent. And you are already consistent in many areas of your life. And you need to acknowledge that, because you don't need to rely on motivation to stay consistent. I love this example of parenting, and Elizabeth Benton talks about this in one of her podcast episodes. And I have taken a lot of what she has talked about in that episode and kind of morphed it into my own practice and my own recommendations for clients. And I love her example that she uses for parenting because she says, we are already consistent in parenting because you don't take care of your kids only when you're motivated to. And no parent says, oh, I only do what I'm supposed to do for my kids if I feel like it, right? We're not saying, oh, I don't want to make dinner today, or I don't want to help with homework today. I don't want to feed my kids today. We do it anyways. So we're already practicing consistency without the need for motivation in certain areas of our life. But in other areas, we allow a lack of motivation to justify our inconsistency. And then that is when it feels like a constant battle. Because no matter how badly we want a goal, if we're relying on motivation, we are going to be inconsistent. So getting consistent, regardless of how you feel, is what it takes to achieve your goal. It's also what showing up as a mature, responsible adult looks like. You already do it in other areas. I think this is what college is a really good example of. I mean, if you've gone to college isn't something that we have to do. It is not a requirement. It's something that we do because we want to. But do we always feel like going to class? Do we always feel like studying for an exam or taking big exams or tests? No, but we do it anyways. We are consistent in showing up to class. We are consistent in doing our work because we know what that end goal is, that bigger goal is that we want. Like, you don't only go to work when you're motivated to do your job, right? So why would you leave your health to the mercy of your feelings, those feelings that are so fleeting? We'll talk about some questions here that will help build consistency. And at first glance, it might seem simpler to just follow some practical tips like, here are some tips to stick to your workout schedule, or here are 5 tips to plan meals ahead of time. However, life isn't about tips and tricks. When we face real life decisions, those tempting split-second moments where we might want to veer off course, relying on surface level tips aren't going to help. We might understand intellectually what we should do, but that doesn't mean we're going to actually follow through, especially when our mood or our energy levels or our motivation is something that is wavering. And that's where questions come in. Questions don't just tell us what to do, they shift how we are thinking in those crucial decision-making moments. They are going to guide us to access deeper motivations, our deeper values, our deeper perspectives that help us stay consistent and aligned with our choices and with our goals. And they're going to prompt us to be more intentional with our choices rather than acting on impulse or on or out of habit, falling back into those patterns that we are trying to break. Because when we're at a crossroads, whether to work out or to skip it or to cook dinner or order takeout or to save money or spend money, a simple tip might not stand really the chance against that voice in your head that's saying, oh, I'm tired, or I'll just do better tomorrow. But asking yourself questions is going to create pause. And that pause is where we evaluate and where we can reframe. And that is where we can take control of the choices that we're going to make. An example would be asking, will this choice help me move towards my goal? Or is this decision based on my values, or is it based on a temporary feeling? Questions are the things that pull us out of autopilot. And autopilot is where we are when we're not really thinking about what we're doing. We're just going through the motions. Going through the motions and autopilot is when we our established patterns are taking over. So if we're trying to break those established patterns that are deeply rooted in our subconscious, the things that we are blaming self-sabotage on, that is why we need to ask the questions, because that is going to give us that opportunity to have a moment of self-reflection and a chance to align with what we truly want and a chance to make a new choice that is in alignment or consistent with the person we want to become, not the person that we are trying to change from, not the person we've always been, keeping ourselves stuck in these same habits and patterns. Most of us have well-worn patterns of thinking that lead to our inconsistency, and we may justify an unhealthy choice with, I've had a rough day, or we're going to skip a workout because I'm not in the mood. And these justifications are often what become habitual. They become our automatic responses. And those are the things that keep us from progressing. So by asking questions, we begin to break these patterns. An example would be, instead of thinking, I don't feel like working out, we can ask, who do I want to be in this moment? And that's going to shift the focus from temporary comfort to more of our long-term identity. When we're tempted to order junk food or food that we know doesn't make us feel good, we can ask a question like, is this the response that I want to practice? That forces us to consider the kind of habit we're reinforcing. And imagine in that moment when you're about to skip your workout because you're tired after work, instead of focusing on how exhausted you are, if you ask yourself, who do I want to be in this moment? Picture yourself as someone, as that person who honors the commitments that you make to yourself, as the person who is invested in their long-term health, and envision yourself as that person you want to be. You want to be someone who stays consistent in your health. This identity-focused approach can reframe your choice from being an obligation to a more powerful step towards who you want to become. And over time, these questions help us rewire our thought processes, and they replace those reactive choices with intentional ones. And pretty soon, those new intentional choices do become our reactive choices. They do become our new pattern. And rather than relying on that fleeting motivation, we're relying on a series of thoughtful questions, thoughtful inquiries that are going to remind us and keep us in line with our true priorities, with the person we want to be. And using questions in an approach is rooted in self-accountability, and it requires us to look at our choices honestly. And sometimes we really do just need to have honest reflection time with ourselves. A couple episodes ago, I talked about looking in the mirror and seeing, where are you lying to yourself? Sometimes we need to look at the choices that we're making honestly. We need to examine what our motives are and to own the consequences of our actions. And this is a reflective practice that's going to build mental resilience. It's going to build maturity, and it's going to help us make decisions as the person we want to be and not just based on what feels good in the moment. And as a parent, isn't that the kind of person you want your children to see you behaving as? Isn't that the kind of example you want to set for them? Someone who's not relying on external accountability. Now, I will say external accountability can be really great as a first step. Like having someone else to check in with can be the nudge we need to get started on something new. And I hired a coach at the beginning of last year just to have that external accountability. And it was really helpful for me, knowing that I had to answer to someone else that I did not want to let down, because I was in a pattern of letting myself down and not showing up for myself. I needed someone else to be there and hold that accountability space for me. But the real magic happens when we start shifting that accountability inward. And if we think of it as external accountability is like training wheels, it's super helpful at keeping us steady while we're building that foundation. But if we're constantly relying on someone else to keep us on track, then we're not really owning the process. We're not really changing. So we have to build that intrinsic motivation. We have to build that motivation and accountability within ourselves. And when we start to do things because they genuinely align with who we want to be, it's going to start transforming things. It means you're going to start showing up for yourself, not because someone's watching or because you feel that you have to. It's going to be the type of self-accountability that's going to be empowering you to make those lasting changes. If you imagine waking up and hitting your goals because you set them and because you believe they're worth it, suddenly that workout or that healthy meal or that tough project you've been working on, it isn't just something you're doing to impress anyone or to avoid someone's disappointment. You're doing it because you know it is shaping you into the person that you want to become. And that's when transformation sticks. Plus, the more we practice self-accountability, the stronger it's going to get. It's like a muscle. Every time you make a choice that aligns with your values and your goals, even when nobody else knows, even when we're not posting about it on social media, we're building trust in ourselves. You're building trust in yourself. And when you trust yourself, that's when consistency flows naturally, not because of an external check-in, but because you genuinely want to follow through. And that's the kind of shift that is going to lead to that lasting change. And if you ask yourself these questions that I'm going to go over, it is a way of taking each thought captive. It gives you a moment to stop, check whether a thought is serving you, and shift your response to one that aligns with your values. And by capturing each thought, we are going to bring it into alignment with your goals. We are going to create space for transformation to happen. So one of the questions that I like to start with when faced in a moment of, I could rely on old patterns or I can do what I said I'm going to do, is what is the consistency I want to have? Most people have a vague idea like, I want to work out more or I want to eat better, but these are too broad to hold us accountable. This is why going back to that previous episode of getting clear on what you want, specificity is our superpower. We need to define our consistency specifically, like I will exercise 4 times a week, or I will indulge in treats only twice a month. Having clarity about what consistency looks like for you is going to give you a solid target to aim for, rather than just leaving it open to how you feel in the moment. Another question is, who or how do I want to be in the moments when I'm tempted to abandon consistency? Asking yourself who you want to be when you're on the brink of making an excuse. Do I want to be this person that I've always been that breaks the promise to myself? Or do I want to be that person that I envision myself being? Another question in the same arena is asking yourself, is this the response I want to practice? In moments of temptation, ask if this response is what you want to practice, because every choice reinforces a habit. If you choose not to work out because it's cold outside or it's late, your bed's so cozy, you're practicing inconsistency. So if you ask instead, what response do I want to practice? Personally, I want to practice honoring my commitments and showing integrity. And I want to be a person who shows up for myself. So that question of, is this the response I want to practice? Ultimately meaning, is this the response I want to reinforce? That can help shift your mindset. Another question, I love this one. This is one of my favorites. I use it all the time. Is there a better version of this story I could tell myself? Often, when we're about to choose inconsistency, we tell ourselves a one-sided story. Like if I'm tempted to skip a workout because I'm tired, I could tell a better story. I could say, instead of saying, oh, I'm tired, I could say, going to the gym will actually help me sleep better tonight. Going to the gym right now is going to help me feel more energized tomorrow. So by reframing, we can often shift out of our perspective and make a choice that more aligns with our goals. I also like the question, am I telling myself the whole truth? Am I leaving parts of this out? Kind of along this same line here. Like if it's late, I could say, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to work out today. I'll work out tomorrow. It's like, okay, I am tired, but in reality, am I going to go to bed right now? Probably not. I'm going to do something else to distract me, or I'm going to do something that's not going to sleep. So saying I'm tired, okay, well, that may be true. That's not the full story. So it's like asking yourself, is this a whole truth? Am I leaving out some facts? Is this the whole truth? Is there a better version of this story? Or what facts am I leaving out? Those are good questions to ask yourself. Honestly, where are you lying to yourself? What are you leaving out? Another good one is, what might this be costing me? And is this a trade I want to make? Because every time we choose inconsistency, there's a cost. If we're choosing not to work out, if we're skipping a workout, it might slow down our progress or make tomorrow's workout harder. I know I went through this a lot when I was trying to lose weight for a goal, right? If I had a deadline for an event or something, but I wasn't sticking to when I was going to start. It was like, okay, I have this event coming up in 3 months. I have 3 months now to start making some changes. But 3 months then turns into, 2 months. I only have 2 months now. And I'm putting more pressure on myself, more stress on myself as that deadline's getting smaller because it's costing me. What is it costing me? Not choosing to start right now is costing me time. It's costing me more stress. Going out and social events are really like the big one that trip people up here. I see so much momentum lost and progress stalled because of the cost of trading. A classic example is making good choices and sticking to your plan, the plan that you've made for yourself Monday through Thursday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday are full of compromise. We're letting habits and patterns run the show, leading to Monday regrets. And that's an exhausting wheel of getting back on track and of never making progress. That is the classic 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. You're always behind the 8 ball there. So thinking about what consistency is going to cost you, whether it's lost progress, lost self-trust, or whether you're sliding back and not keeping that momentum going, and ask yourself if that's a trade that you're willing to make. Another one that I really like is asking the question, how can I indulge in a way that feels good? So much of when we're trying to make changes, especially when it comes to like our diet and what we're eating, I will be the first to admit so much of life has to do with food, and social settings have to do with food, and eating and dining and food are such a huge part of who we are as people and in relationships. And so sometimes when we are abstaining from eating certain things, it kind of makes us feel like we are missing out on relationships. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how we're wired. You know, we're tribal. We want to fit in with our people, and food is such a huge centerpiece of what that is. And so sometimes people just don't stick to what their goals are because ultimately deep down it's threatening their sense of relationship. And that can be really hard. And so we can work with this by learning to indulge in a way that feels good. And it's about redefining what indulgence to you and being mindful about it so you can enjoy yourself without the regret later. And if going out on the weekend is something you genuinely look forward to, but it's also where you tend to overdo it, we can try shifting your approach with some simple intentional tweaks. So if we break down a scenario of you like going to happy hour with your girlfriends on Friday, say you meet up with the girls and normally one drink leads to three, which then leads to nachos and later maybe even a late night snack raid when you get home. You wake up the next day feeling sluggish or bloated, and you're wondering, why did you do this to yourself again? So instead of going down that familiar path, you can try asking yourself, what's the part I love most about this experience and how can I enjoy it without the negative side effects? Maybe you genuinely enjoy the social time and connection with friends more than the drinks and the bar food. And if that's the case, you could just try ordering a non-alcoholic drink or a sparkling water with or a fun mocktail or something. Sometimes just holding a drink in hand can be enough to feel a part of the vibe without that added alcohol, if that is your slippery slope. Or you can set a limit ahead of time. You can choose to savor one well-made cocktail or a small plate that's not going to send you spiraling into a might as well eating mindset. And that way you're indulging with intention and you're not feeling left out and you're not feeling like you're missing out. And if you find that maybe the nachos are the draw, try going in with a plan to split them or even enjoy a smaller serving mindfully rather than just eating without realizing how many chips you have just shoved into your face. I say this because chips and salsa are my kryptonite. But if you take the time to just enjoy each chip slowly, actually tasting it instead of just shoveling it into your mouth, sometimes just slowing down allows you to enjoy the food without feeling the need to go overboard. Another approach is to just make sure you're already feeling satisfied before you go. It's like eating a balanced meal or a snack beforehand, like something with protein and fiber and healthy fats that can prevent that, oh, I'm starving feeling that often leads to those impulse decisions. And if you notice that coming home after a late night or night out is going to lead to you rummaging through the pantry, consider having a healthy treat waiting for you at home, like a bowl of fresh berries or a homemade protein snack that's going to satisfy that post-social craving. Ultimately, indulging in a way that feels good is about shifting your focus from quantity to quality and choose the parts of the experience you truly enjoy and let yourself savor them without the all or nothing mindset. This way, you still enjoy your nights out and time with friends, but you also wake up the next morning feeling good about the choices you made. This is probably a good time to mention that if you've been craving clarity, whether in your mindset or your cravings, or even just in your consistency and the way you have self-talk and the way you approach situations that traditionally would cause you to stumble or something that is just keeping you stuck, this is a really good time to consider joining my Freedom Fast. It starts this coming Monday, November 4th. So if you're listening to this before then, it's not too late to join. It's 21 days of clearing out distractions, getting recentered, and just breaking free from those patterns that are holding you back or keeping you stuck and getting a new perspective on those. So if this feels like something that you've been hoping for or the opportunity you've been looking for, consider this my invitation to you to invite you to join me on that. You can check out the show notes for the link to register, or you can head to my website, hollyjeanhealth.com, and you can sign up for that. And I will just say that if you feel a slight even tug on your heart that this might be something for you, I just encourage you to join. and see what you can get out of it. Because sometimes it just takes a challenge in doing it with others to get to that next level. So, speaking of challenging our thinking, I also want to challenge our stories. And I like doing things where we can reframe our mindset to kind of rewire the way we would normally think about things. If you think about one area in your life where you feel stuck or frustrated, then ask yourself, what's a more empowering way to see this? For instance, if you're thinking, I don't have time to work out, maybe try flipping that script and say, I value my health and I will find small ways to move daily, even if it's just 10 minutes. This practice of reframing not only challenges those limiting beliefs, but it also helps you build a more empowering narrative. I already mentioned that what else is true, that part of the questioning, but I just want to bring it up again because this is also part of the reframing too. So another example is I'm too busy to work out today. It's like, yes, that's true. You're busy, but it's also true that I could take 10 minutes to go for a walk right now. I get a question often, and it's, why am I not losing weight despite eating healthy? We can even reframe that and ask ourselves, what else is true about my habits? What else could be going on that is preventing me from getting weight loss besides eating healthy? Because, okay, I'm eating healthy. So what else is true that I'm missing? Maybe you're skipping meals or getting poor sleep or feeling stressed, and acknowledging these other truths can reveal missing pieces. Another thing people say, again, with like the I don't have time to work out, we can reframe it and we can ask the same thing. What else is true about how I spend my time? We can recognize where small windows of time are available, like, for instance, to go and do that 10-minute walk or a morning stretch or a walk after lunch, because sometimes time is available. We just need to reevaluate how we're looking at it and notice how we are using our time. Another thing we could do is really just stop and ask, am I being mature or logical about how I am evaluating this situation? Sometimes the honest answer is no. Like telling myself, I'll start fresh tomorrow every time I'm stressed isn't just a delay. It's also a cycle that is keeping me stuck, that I'll start tomorrow. I'll get back on track next week. Or as soon as this event is over, I'll start again. As soon as we keep putting things off, and true growth means challenging yourself to break that pattern. So ask yourself, is my mindset a bridge to my goals, or is it an excuse that is holding me back? If we want to see real progress, it's going to require stepping outside of that comfortable cycle of tomorrow or next week. And we need to step into that power of, okay, right now I can do something. Another big thing I see holding people back, and I hear this so often, it's that I deserve a break mindset. And the pitfall happens maybe again after a long day, an exhausting day. It's easy to just skip the workout, or it's easy to just grab fast food, even though you had planned on cooking and you have stuff at home to make. And we tell ourselves this half truth of, oh, I worked so hard, I deserve a break. We need to stop with that, especially if we know deep down that that is the story that we keep telling ourselves, that is keeping us from reaching the goals that we want. Another one, if it's not food related, late night scrolling. A lot of people complain that they don't get good sleep, or they get poor quality sleep, not enough sleep. So wanting to improve sleep is something that is a common goal, but the same time they're wanting to improve sleep, they're also getting sucked into late night social media scrolling or watching TV. I can't tell you how many clients go to bed early with good intentions, but then they grab their phone to maybe set their alarm, and then that turns into, oh, let me just check Facebook, or let me just check my emails, or let me just see what's going on Instagram. And the next thing you know, it's past 11 and you're scrolling through your phone and you have to be up early. And in these moments, you can ask, am I being mature and logical about how I'm handling this right now? Is telling yourself just 10 more minutes of scrolling, is that really aligned with the goal you want for feeling rested in the morning? And recognizing that more screen time isn't me time. Like, that's really a trap right there, is thinking that spending time on your phone is time for you. No, what you really need, the best me time would be getting the rest that you need. So you could instead choose to set a boundary, like put your phone down and allow yourself a peaceful wind down window that is going to honor your body's need for sleep. One more question that you could ask yourself is, do I really want to solve this problem? And if I do, am I acting like it? Like, how can I be an active participant in the solution? This was a big one for me, because as I was gaining weight and I was getting more and more frustrated, if I would have just stopped and paused and asked myself, do I really want to solve this problem? And am I acting like it? Because my answer to the first part of that question was, yes, I really do. Yeah, I want to lose weight. Yes, I do. I want to stop gaining weight. I want to break the cycle that I'm in. I mean, there was a lot of things going on, because I was also only telling myself half truths, about, oh, well, it's my thyroid, or it's perimenopause, it's my hormones. It's like, okay, yes, that is true. But also, am I making the best food choices for myself? Or do I have some stories going on in my head thinking, oh, because I have stress and hormonal stuff and thyroid stuff going on, I need to be having carbs. And that went to like way more carbs than I needed. So that's a half truth there. But also, was I acting like I wanted to solve the problem? No, I wasn't. I was doing more complaining and more blaming and more making excuses for myself than I was actively participating in finding a solution. And that solution was being honest with myself about what I was eating and whether or not it was good for my body, and how much I was moving or not moving, really. Those are the things that I had to be honest with myself about, and answer the full question, am I acting like I want to solve this problem? Okay, another thing, this all or nothing thinking when it comes to habits. And there's this pitfall that I also see people fall into, and it's this like all or nothing idea when it comes to eating, where a single slip up leads to thoughts like, well, I've already blown it. I might as well just eat whatever I want today. And an example like this would be, let's say you had a donut at the office. Maybe, I don't know if it was a special occasion or just whatever. You have a donut, right? Who cares? You have a donut. But then the story you start to tell yourself is, well, today's already a bust. I'll get back on track tomorrow. But if you ask yourself, do I really want to solve this problem? And am I acting like it, rather than using that treat in the morning as an excuse for all day indulging? You can choose to enjoy it, accept it, and be like, okay, I made that choice to enjoy that donut, and I'm going to move on with it. And I'm going to honor my body and eat the way that's in alignment with my goals for the rest of the day. And it doesn't have to turn into punishing yourself for the rest of the day, or trying to starve for the rest of the day, or then going to try to kill yourself in cardio at the gym. It can just be very matter of fact. There doesn't have to be emotion involved in it. It could be, okay, I did the thing, and I do really want to solve this problem of mine. So I'm going to act like it, and I'm going to move on and make healthy choices the rest of the day. And this shift really helps reinforce that one treat doesn't derail your progress. It's part of having that balanced life that we're striving to get. It's just, we cannot be doing this every single day and then wondering, why am I not reaching my goals? The impact of mindset on our overall health. Like, mindset just isn't about weight loss. It's affecting every area of our health. And when our mindset is positive and focused, it does have a ripple effect on our physical, mental, emotional well-being. And studies even show this, that positive thinking is going to help reduce your stress. It's going to help improve your immunity and increase your longevity. How we think about the situations that we are in and that self-talk that we have, that internal dialogue, is going to have a huge impact on our overall health. I love the Bible verse in Corinthians to take every thought captive, because it really fits perfectly into this topic, especially when we look at mindset as the driving force behind what a true transformation is. Because when we talk about real lasting change, it's not just about shifting those external behaviors. It's about examining and reshaping the internal landscape of our thoughts, our beliefs, our perspectives. If you think back to the previous episode on mindset, when I gave the analogy of the triangle, that's really what it is. It's causing us to re-examine, like, am I just changing shapes here, or is it changing the position of the shape, or am I actually transforming into another shape? And when we're taking every thought captive, that means to be actively managing and filtering our thoughts and choosing which ones align with who we truly want to be, and which ones need to be challenged, which ones need to be released and rewritten. In our lives, we often have thoughts that try to hold us back, and those thoughts can be of self-doubt, those limiting beliefs, those excuses. And without being intentional, we might let these thoughts steer us away from our goals. And when we're making just those surface level changes, we're never going to be able to fully step into the transformation that we really desire in our hearts. But by taking every thought captive, we can choose to bring those thoughts under control and examining whether or not they are true, whether they are mature, whether they are helping us move forward, or if they're causing us to stay stuck in these old patterns. Just like that rotating triangle, rotating it around without ever really becoming the square. So a growth mindset is one that is believing that we can make changes and that we are worthy of those changes. And that is going to impact whether or not we can achieve them. Because really, we need to believe that we're able to make these changes and achieve our goals. Because I'll be honest, there was a time when I would set goals and I would know in my heart that I wouldn't achieve it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to set this goal because this is going to make me feel like in this moment I'm an active participant wanting to make these changes, but I never follow through with anything, so I'm not really going to do this. If that's the mindset you have going into it, you're not going to get there. You have to believe that you can do it. You have to believe that this time is going to be different. You are going to be honest with yourself, and you are going to be consistent even when motivation is not there. So to wrap up this episode, I'd like you to take a moment and visualize your goal self and picture that version of you who has transformed, who feels balanced, who feels strong and empowered. And imagine that person and imagine how she thinks and acts and feels. This visualization is not only a powerful reminder of who you're becoming, but also we need to keep that image in mind for whenever we are faced with a choice, and let that vision of who we know we can be, let that guide you. And I want you to just remember that mindset really is everything. And I said it in the beginning of this episode. It's like you can have the most perfect meal plan. You can have the most perfect optimized exercise routine. But it's not just about diet or exercise or supplements. It's about who you believe you are and the thoughts that guide your choices. Where your mind goes, the body follows, and you have the power to guide your mind towards that positive, healthy habit version of yourself that you want to be. So I would love to hear from you. Please share your transformation story. I want to hear your stories. And better yet, if you have an amazing transformative story that you'd like to share, reach out to me. Let's get you on the show. Let's talk about it, because I think it's important to hear how other people make these changes for themselves. And I think it's important to hear the struggles, because a lot of times we just see the end result. We see the highlights. But I know from personal experience, I know from my clients that there is work that needs to be done, that has to happen before we get to that end transformation. And I want to share your story. I want to hear your story. So reach out on social media or email, and let's keep this conversation going. I'm going to close us out in prayer. Lord, thank you for the gift of self-awareness and the strength to be intentional in all that we do. I just pray that you help us take our thoughts captive, as you've called us to do, and that we align those thoughts with the purpose and vision that you've placed on our hearts. I pray that you guide us as we strive to show up as our best selves, consistently choosing what honors our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. And Lord, I just pray that you fill us with the wisdom to recognize the power of every choice and the courage to follow through with those choices, even when it's hard. Ask for your peace and presence as we walk in this journey, just leaning on you for strength, and being also thankful in the community that we have in each other and that we are building in each other. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Thank you again for being with me here today. Stay committed, keep nurturing that mindset, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening to Real Health Transformations. I appreciate you joining me. If you found value in what we covered today, I'd be grateful if you could leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. It really helps spread the word and just helps me get the show out to more people and lets more people find us. And if you'd like to submit a question for me to answer on a coaching episode, or to apply to be a live guest on a coaching episode, check out the show notes on how to contact me for that. The show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. As always, please consult your trusted doctor or medical professional before making health and lifestyle changes. I'll catch you next time on Real Health Transformations.